What if you were never the one breathing? What if life has always been breathing you, quietly, faithfully, without asking for your attention? You think you inhale, you think you exhale, but perhaps it is the universe moving through you, a tide rising and falling in the ocean of being. The breath does not need you to remember it. Even in your sleep, in your fear, in your distraction, it continues. It is the most loyal presence, a constant whisper that says, "You are still here." And yet when you stop trying to control it, you begin to feel its true nature. Not as something you do, but as something that does you. This is where the journey begins, not toward the breath, but back into the mystery that breathes everything. You have never needed to remember how to breathe. The trees taught you, the stars prepared the air for you, and the earth herself exhales so that you may live. Every breath you take is a continuation of a rhythm older than your body. It moves through mountains, rivers, and skin. The same invisible current that animates all forms. And still, we forget. We act as if breathing is an act of will, as if we own the air we draw. But the breath is not personal. It belongs to the infinite. It was here before you came, and it will remain when you are gone. To breathe is to participate in eternity. To be breathed is to remember that you never left it. Notice how the breath never asks for recognition. It simply arrives again and again, like forgiveness. Even when your mind races or your heart closes, the breath waits in silence, patient as light at dawn. It has no judgment, no demand, no agenda. It serves life equally, saint and sinner, human and bird, each sustained by the same unseen rhythm. You cannot make the breath holy. It already is. You cannot make it pure. It never forgot its origin. So when you become still enough, you may sense something sacred. That breathing was never about survival. It is communion, a wordless prayer between you and the universe. There is a gentle paradox here. You breathe without effort, yet you often forget this miracle. You chase control, thinking peace will follow obedience. But peace arises not from control, but from trust. The trust that life knows how to breathe. When you release the compulsion to manage the air, the breath returns to its natural rhythm, deeper, slower, wiser. It no longer belongs to you, but to the silent intelligence that animates all existence. And in that moment, you realize you are not breathing for yourself. You are breathing for the cosmos. Each inhale nourishes not one being, but the whole field of life. The paradox of breathing is this: you can neither begin it nor stop it. It flows before your first cry and continues long after the body has returned to dust. To the mind, this sounds frightening. To the heart, it feels like freedom, because what breathes through you is not separate from the stars or the wind. It is the same presence that expands galaxies, the same current that makes flowers open at dawn. When you feel this, you stop searching for meaning. You are meaning itself, inhaled and exhaled by the infinite. Every breath becomes a reminder. Life does not need your permission to love you. We spend so much of life trying to control what already moves perfectly. We count the seconds, regulate the pace, chasing the illusion that mastery will bring peace. But behind every attempt to control is the fear of losing. We hold the breath when we are afraid, as if we could pause life to stop pain. We deepen it when we are anxious, as if the breath were medicine to fix us. But the breath has never asked to be fixed. It was never broken. It knows the way home, even when you are lost. Every forced inhale is a quiet act of distrust. Every surrendered exhale is a return to faith. Control is the mind's way of pretending it knows better than the universe. It believes stillness can be achieved by effort, that peace is a prize earned by precision. But peace does not come from doing the breath right. It comes from remembering that the breath was right all along. When you manipulate the breath, you tighten the very space it needs to flow. You turn something sacred into a task. You turn grace into a performance. And then, exhausted, you wonder why stillness feels far away. But the breath is patient. It keeps waiting quietly until you are ready to let go of your techniques and simply be breathed again. You try to control the breath for the same reason you try to control people, time, or destiny, because you fear the unknown. The unknown feels like death to the ego. But the unknown is where life begins. In every uncontrolled exhale, something dies, the old rhythm, the old identity. And in every effortless inhale, something new is born. When you see this clearly, control transforms into trust. You stop managing the breath and begin listening to it. You start to sense that each breath carries the wisdom of 1,000 lifetimes, a pulse of intelligence far older than thought. Perhaps this is why so many spiritual traditions begin with breathing, not to teach control, but to reveal surrender. The ancient teachers never said, "Breathe better." They whispered, "Notice. Notice what is already perfect. Notice the air moving through you without needing your help. Notice that you are not separate from the wind passing through the trees. When you start noticing, you realize the breath is not yours to master. You are the one being mastered by it. And in that recognition, a strange peace arises. The kind that cannot be achieved, only allowed. When you finally stop trying to control the breath, something profound happens. The breath softens, widens, and your body begins to breathe like the earth, slow, deep, without ambition. You realize you were never meant to do life. Life has always been doing you. Every wave of air entering your lungs is the same wave that moves the ocean. Every exhale is the tide returning home. The illusion of control fades, and what remains is trust, not blind belief, but the direct experience that everything moves in harmony when you no longer resist. In that harmony, something shifts. The doer disappears, and being begins. When you stop doing the breathing, the breath begins to breathe you. There comes a moment when the doing becomes too heavy. Even the effort to breathe feels like resistance. You have tried to guide, to balance, to perfect, but the more you do, the less alive you feel. Then suddenly, without warning, you stop. Not out of decision, but from exhaustion. And in that pause, something vast opens. The breath enters on its own. The exhale releases on its own. You realize it has always been this way. You were never breathing. You were being breathed. This is the shift. From doing to being, from effort to trust, from control to communion. As the breath begins to breathe you, the body becomes transparent. It no longer feels like a boundary, but a soft bridge between heaven and earth. Each inhale carries light. Each exhale dissolves form into space. You can feel it, not in the chest or the lungs, but in the stillness that surrounds you. The you who once managed the breath starts to fade, like mist under sunlight. And what remains is a silent awareness that watches everything, the rising, the falling, the disappearing, without preference, without identity. Being breathes itself. There is no technique here, only listening, not with the ears, but with presence. The breath becomes a song without a singer, a prayer without a word. Even the idea of meditation falls away. This is not meditation. This is remembrance. Remembrance that you were never separate from the rhythm that sustains all things. The trees, the clouds, the oceans, they have always been breathing with you. To breathe is to belong. To be breathed is to awaken. And in this awakening, time softens, the heart expands, and existence becomes effortless. In this stillness, you start to feel how intelligent the breath truly is. It knows when to deepen, when to pause, when to disappear into silence. It adjusts to joy, to sorrow, to sleep, to love, without you doing a thing. Can you feel the compassion in that? How life carries you, even when you are unaware of it. This intelligence does not belong to you. You belong to it. It is the same current that guides rivers to the ocean and stars across the dark. To be breathed by this current is to rest inside the pulse of the cosmos. Now the boundary between breath and awareness dissolves. Each inhale feels like being drawn into the infinite. Each exhale, a return to the formless. You can no longer tell where breathing ends and stillness begins. It is as if the universe is exhaling you into existence and inhaling you back into itself. There is no separation, only the rhythm of being becoming being. You have crossed the invisible line where practice ends and life begins. There is nothing to fix, nothing to follow. Only this sacred movement that breathes itself. In the old way, you thought you were watching the breath. Now you see, it has been watching you all along. It witnessed your struggles, your control, your yearning to find peace. And yet, it never turned away. This realization is not an ending, but a doorway. A gentle opening into deeper seeing. You are ready now to meet the mystery that breathes everything, not from the mind that seeks, but from the silence that knows. When the breath begins to observe you, the watcher disappears, and only the living awareness remains. You have spent years watching the breath, tracking its rise and fall, its texture, its sound, its pause. But now, something begins to turn. The watcher grows quiet, like a candle melting in its own flame. You feel a subtle shift, as if the breath is watching you. It moves through you, gazing with infinite gentleness, seeing every corner you tried to hide. The breath has known you since your first cry. It remembers the warmth of your first inhale, the trembling of your first fear, the softness of your first surrender. And now it looks back at you, not to judge, but to remind you, you were never apart. When the breath observes you, it sees through the masks. It doesn't care about the name you wear, the titles you hold, the stories you tell. It looks straight into your being, through every layer of pretending. And what it finds is not failure, but tenderness. It sees how hard you have tried to be good, to be calm, to be worthy. And in that seeing, something melts. You begin to weep, not from sadness, but from relief. Because for the first time, you are fully seen, not by another, but by the living breath itself. The breath observes you without effort. It does not measure your progress or compare your stillness to others. It simply knows. It knows when you tighten, when you drift away, when you forget that you are loved. It responds not with punishment, but with patience, a gentleness so vast it dissolves the need to improve. In that gaze of breath, you realize there was never anything wrong. Even your resistance was part of the dance. Even your mistakes were just contractions of the same rhythm. The breath has never stopped embracing you. This is the turning point, where observation becomes communion. The one who watches and the one who is watched are no longer two. The inhale looks at you. The exhale holds you. And in between, there is no one left. No meditator, no teacher, no seeker. Only the luminous space where breath and awareness meet. This is not a technique. It cannot be learned. It can only be remembered. Because it has always been here, breathing as you through every lifetime of forgetting. Energetically, this is the moment when prana, the life current, takes over from personal will. The nervous system releases control, and breath begins to breathe consciousness itself. This is why deep practitioners report that breathing slows, sometimes even stops, not because life fades, but because life becomes utterly silent. The movement continues, but so subtle that it disappears into stillness. You are no longer breathing. Awareness itself is breathing. The body becomes light. The boundaries dissolve, and silence reveals its secret. It was the breath all along. Silence is not the absence of breath. It is the breath's truest form. When the breath observes you completely, you vanish into that silence. It breathes your thoughts into space, your pain into light, your history into wholeness. And what remains is not a person breathing, but the cosmos pulsing softly as you. Here, even the idea of awareness disappears. The seer and the seen collapse into one glow, the original rhythm that moves galaxies and hearts alike. You realize that enlightenment was never a peak to climb, but the simple moment when the breath sees itself. Now everything breathes you. The wind outside the window, the stars above, the silence between your thoughts. You are no longer inside the breath. You are inside infinity. Every sound, every movement is the breath continuing its eternal dance. You can feel it flowing through every being. The child crying, the leaf trembling, the ocean singing. All of it is one vast inhalation, one endless exhalation. And in the center of that rhythm, there is only stillness. The stillness that breathes everything. You rest there, weightless, wordless, home. In that stillness, there is no more observer, only the universe breathing itself through every form of love. Each breath you take is not only yours, it is shared, endlessly recycled through trees, oceans, clouds, and stars. The air entering your lungs was once part of a mountain breeze, a bird's song, a mother's sigh, the smoke of ancient fires. You are breathing the memory of the earth. Every inhale is the universe entering form. Every exhale is your return to the whole. The boundary between you and the world was never real, only imagined by the mind. In truth, there is only one movement: life, inhaling and exhaling itself, over and over, in endless communion. The trees are your lungs turned outward. The rivers are your bloodstream. The clouds are your breath made visible. You are not standing on the earth. You are the earth standing as you. When the wind passes through the forest, it passes through you. When the ocean exhales mist into the sky, that mist will one day fill your chest. This is not poetry. It is physics. It is love disguised as biology. The breath reveals the truth that everything alive is part of one single respiration. To breathe is to bow in reverence to the unity that never ceased to be. Scientists call it the carbon cycle. The mystics call it divine rhythm. 2 languages, 1 reality. You inhale the gift of trees, exhale the gift of life back to them. Atoms of ancient stars travel through your body and return to the sky through your breath. Every breath completes a circle that began before time. So when you breathe consciously, you are not calming the mind. You are aligning with the rhythm that built galaxies. You are remembering that your life is not separate from the cosmic pulse that sings through everything. To see the universe in each breath is to fall in love with existence again. You begin to feel tenderness for all beings, for even the smallest creature shares the same invisible current. When someone breathes beside you, they are touching the same source. There is no my breath or your breath, only the eternal rhythm moving through countless forms. This understanding is not philosophy. It is intimacy. You are intimately breathed by the same force that moves the sun and the stars. And in that realization, every inhale becomes worship. Every exhale, surrender. When you see the universe breathing with you, surrender is no longer a choice. It is the only natural way to live. Surrender is not something you do. It happens when you finally realize there is nothing left to manage. The breath knows, the body knows, life knows. You exhale the last trace of effort, and in that simple release, the infinite takes over. There is no announcement, no light from the sky, only the quiet truth that you were never in control. The breath was always breathing you. All your striving, all your seeking was just part of its rhythm, a wave within its greater tide. Now, that wave has returned home. When surrender happens, it feels like falling, but you are falling into stillness. The mind stops naming, the heart stops reaching, and the breath becomes transparent. You no longer sense the inhale or the exhale, only an endless openness where both arise and fade. You are not lost. You are held. Held by the same intelligence that spins the planets and opens the petals of a flower. This is grace, the moment you stop pretending to be separate from what breathes you. The peace that follows is not something you achieve. It is what remains when all resistance dissolves. In this surrender, even silence breathes. Every cell hums with the rhythm of creation. You are still, yet everything moves through you. The wind, the stars, the pulse of life itself. This stillness is not emptiness. It is fullness beyond measure. It is love before language, light before form. There is no longer inside or outside, only the luminous flow of being aware of being. This is the breath's final teaching, that freedom was never about doing, but about allowing life to live through you as it always wished to. Now, the breath and you are indistinguishable. You are the inhalation of the universe, and the universe is your exhalation. Each moment breathes itself perfectly, needing no witness, no control, no purpose. You can finally rest, not in sleep, but in the eternal pulse of existence. The heart beats, the wind moves, and all of it whispers the same truth. You are home. This is not an ending, but a beginning without direction. Life continues to breathe, and you are its quiet joy, its living silence. And as silence breathes you, the rhythm continues, an infinite cycle of being, loving, and returning. Even when the words end, the breath continues. Even when the body sleeps, life keeps breathing through you, softly, endlessly, as it does through the stars and the seas. You are part of a rhythm that never began and will never end. It hums beneath every silence, ripples beneath every form. You were never the breather. You were the rhythm itself, disguised as a person for a while. Now you remember. The inhale and the exhale were never two. They were the heartbeat of one eternal being, playing itself as you, as me, as everything that ever was. The infinite breath does not belong to time. It moves through birth and death as easily as wind moves through trees. It knows no beginning, no conclusion, only transformation. Each life is an exhalation, each death an inhale returning to the source. The universe expands, contracts, expands again, not in chaos, but in perfect silence. To live consciously is simply to sway with that rhythm, to allow each moment to arrive and depart like breath. There is nothing to hold, nothing to lose. The breath you take now is the same one that moved through the Buddha, through the galaxies, through the first spark of creation. So rest here. Let the breath breathe you, as it always has. Let it carry you into the quiet joy of simply being. You are not separate from the cosmos. You are its living whisper. When this video ends, do not return to effort. Return to listening. Listen to the silence that continues to breathe through you. For it is saying again and again, in every inhale, in every exhale, you were never breathing alone. The cosmos has always been breathing through you. Let the breath breathe you, and you will know what freedom truly means. If this breath has reminded you of home, let the journey continue. Subscribe to Free You, where each breath becomes a doorway back to presence. Together, we will breathe the universe awake.